all week. The Jay McGillis spring game, the culmination of 6 weeks of practice, of getting things ready with new coaching staffs. What should we be expecting? What do you need to know as a fan? And I'm going to get into that, and you're going to want to not miss this. I have two crystal balls up. If you're into college sports recruiting, you know what that means. Up on 247, one for basketball, one for football. I'll explain what each of them means. I'll tell you why I picked each. And then BC loses one of their main wide receivers, but it's not a surprise. We'll get into all of that on today's show.
You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Locked On BC, I am your host, AJ Black. Thank you all so much for listening and being our first listen every morning. If you have not been a first listener, what I mean by that is every single day, I have put out content on the spring game. You can go back. There's 5 episodes. Dive right in. Get into that. Now, for today's episode, I want to give you the primer. What do you need to know? What are the things that you want to be aware of if you're heading to the game, if you're watching it? What's all the goodies that you're going to need to know? Let's get into that. So, if you are heading to the game is at 11 a.m. at Alumni Stadium. Believe parking's free for this. Hey, BC gives you something free. Woo! That's something to get excited about. You can head there at 11. They have the family fest beforehand. I'm going to go with my kids early because they're going to get their face painted, meet Baldwin, all that good stuff. But if you just want to head to the game at 11, that's fun too. Now, the game itself, say you live in New Jersey, you live in Georgia, and you're a Boston College graduate, you can't make it to this game. The game is on ACC Network Extra. And I've gotten a few messages from folks that don't know what that means. ACC Network Extra is not that hard to find. And I'm going to explain it to you right now how you can get that so you can watch this game as well. If you have a smart TV, those TVs that have apps on them, most TVs made in the last 6 or 7 years have this. Download the ESPN app right now. As long as you have cable, which if you're complaining that it's not on cable and you don't have cable, then that's a whole other story. But if you have cable, you can use the ESPN app to get ACC Network Extra. Just sign in with your network password, whatever you have. Boom, you're in. Do it today. If it's Friday, do it so you're ready to go. You will be able to watch this. Boom, easy peasy. Your game is ready to roll. All right. Now, this game itself, we don't know yet what Hafley is going to do in terms of setting up the rosters. That'll probably come out today. If you're listening on Friday, it's going to come out where he splits up the roster. My hope of anything is that it's the first team offense versus the first team defense, and then second team offense versus second team defense. That's what we need to see, right? And then cycle in guys that aren't that are kind of borderline. See how they do. Just kind of get a feel for that, right? I think that's all you can expect from this game. Now, in terms of the game itself, we've said all week, if you're looking for an exhibition on tackling, you're going to be disappointed because it's going to be the thud rule again. And whether you agree with it or not, that's what this team does. And it's not a Jeff Hafley thing. It's Adazio did it. It's just kind of the rule of the lands for what they do. And then the game itself, I got to tell you, folks, if you're watching for a fun exhibition, then you're going to have a good time. If you're looking and you're like, oh, that guy, he should be starting next year, you're going to be disappointed, and you're going to set yourself up for guys that are never going to play, because you're going to watch and you're going to see a third string running back go crazy. You're going to see some guys that will never see the field shine in the third and fourth quarter. And you know what? That's fine. but don't expect them to be like, I don't want to hear about it in this fall. Like, why is this guy not starting over Cole Batson? Or why is this dude not the starting running back? Really, realistically, you should not be getting any takeaways from the spring game. That's kind of how the coaches set this up, right? You don't want to know like anything other than that, right? I things I'm going to look for, things that I want to know about. I kind of want to just see how the quarterbacks play out, right? Emmett Moorhead, I'm fine. He could play one set of downs and then not play again, and that's fine. I want to see how Peter Delaportis looks. I want to see how Jacoby Robinson looks, and I want to see how Matt Reeve looks. Because as I've said on this podcast, BC is going to go deep into the transfer portal again at the end of the spring session, which opens up on Saturday. So you're going to be done with this game, and then all of a sudden transfer portal news is going to hit. Boom. You're going to have to get ready for that. I think the quarterback position is one I'm thinking they're going to go after, because we saw that happen in the first session. They missed a kid from Vanderbilt, and he ended up with Mississippi State. They're going after quarterbacks. Let's see what happens in the spring session. And I think they're going to go after other players as well. Now, the game itself should be decent weather. It should be about high 65. It's not going to be too cold, not going to be too hot. And we'll just see if players have some fun out there, right? Look forward to seeing some names, as we said all along. Guys like Nigel Tate was one name I want to watch for. I want to see what Matt Regan, a tight end who was a redshirt freshman, I want to see what he looks like. I also want to see what Jeremiah Franklin, who played last year, who put on 30 pounds, I want to see what he looks like. I mean, just eyeballing guys, eyeballing the change. I mean, one thing that would be, you don't need to see a spring game to see it, but it's just something I want to see is, it seems like to me the spring, this offseason that Phil Matus, the strength and conditioning coach, put in a lot of work with these guys, got them bulked up. Every guy I've looked at has put on like 15, 20 pounds. I just want to see it. I want to see what these guys look like. I want to see what each of them kind of bulks up to be, right? Now, if you're at the game, you can always hit me up. I'll be there. I'm going to go to the media afterwards. Hit me up at AJBlack_BC, and maybe I'll check out and meet with some of you guys as well. I'll have my kid with me. He is so excited to go and watch this. He has no clue what the difference between a spring game and a regular game is. So if you got kids, this is perfect. I'm a grad. I love just being on campus. I love not having to pay to be on campus. I think for all of us, that's the positive, right? That's the thing we're going to look forward to. And if you want the in-depth stuff, there's other things I think that are more important, which is the recruiting. Recruiting has been key for BC this spring. We've seen a bunch of guys on campus. I from what I talked to BC, and I talked to a bunch of kids. They all love to tag me. Follow me at BC Eagle Insider. They're tagging me constantly with when they're going to be on campus. The spring game, I think there's going to be a lot of guys on campus. So I think that's important too. So as fans, if you can get there to support them, the kids are going to see that too. So I think that's important as well. Now, in our second segment, we're going to continue our discussion of football. And I want to get into, football and basketball. As the Eagle Insider publisher on 247, I get the ability to make crystal balls. And I know a lot of fans out there have a lot of thoughts on what the crystal balls are going to be. And it means a lot to them. And folks, I have two of them. I'm going to throw them out to you for free. And I'll explain why I did those in just a moment. Now, if you're looking for a delicious snack, but don't want all of the sugar and calories, then you need to try the best tasting protein bar ever. Built. It's amazing. It's 100% covered in chocolate. It's healthy. And you got to try them. What makes Built so good? Well, for starters, they're covered in 100% real dark chocolate. And they got some unbelievable flavors out there, like churro, peanut butter brownie, and cookies and cream. I love them. I give them to my kids. They like to snack on them. I love them as my midday meal replacement. If I'm on the move, if I'm covering a press conference, or if I have a whole bunch of media, things set up, I like to just grab a Built Bar because it gives me the protein I need. It doesn't fill me up with sugar and junk. And it's delicious. It tastes like eating a candy bar, but they're good for you. That's right. You can go to your local Walmart or Sam's Clubs right now and get a specialty bar or go to built.com. If you're close to Sam's Club, run in and grab a 13 bar box with our hit flavors like brownie batter puff and churro puff. Excuse me. And then you can go to Walmart, walk right up to the pharmacy section, grab yourself a Built Bar box. You can pick up a 4 bar box of cookies and cream bar, double chocolate, or coconut puff. I'm telling you, folks, if you have not done so already, you are missing out on a treat. So head over to built.com right now. This is Locked On BC AJ Black. I am the publisher of Eagle Insider, part of 247 Sports, and the leader in recruiting news, one of the leaders in college sports news. I'm telling you, folks, if you have not subscribed to our Eagle Insider channel, you need to do so right now. It's 50% off until I think it's the 18th. You're going to get insider information. I just did some musings today that had like 15 bullet points of just stuff that I know that is not a full post. I talked to the kids. I talked to the coaching staff. I've got visitor lists. I give you predictions. I give you everything. And you can get it for about $50 a year. How are you going to beat that? Well, I'm going to give you 2 crystal ball posts that I've made in the last couple of weeks that are no longer like premium. So I think you guys, as my listening audience, need to know about them. And one's basketball, one's football. Now, for football, this is a big one. I made a crystal ball prediction, and you can go and find it if you want to, for Henry Hasselbeck to commit to Boston College. Now, this is the Zavarian brothers quarterback who's currently committed to Maryland for lacrosse. And of course, with that last name, you know he is a legacy for BC. His dad, Matt, is very close to the program. I think he's gonna move off of his lacrosse commitment and move to football, and I think he's gonna end up at BC. Now, as I record this, he just received an offer from Army, which is nice, but I don't think that's gonna I don't think that's gonna move any needles or anything like that in terms of where BC is at. Now, I think BC is down to a couple quarterbacks. Now, I have a big board that I've put up, but it's changed, and I'm gonna have a new one up after practice. When I went in the spring, from talking to Boston College, this is not just me. Like, folks that are listening to this are going, AJ, where is this coming from? I have my sources. This is not just me making this up. I talked to the kids, I talked to the schools. This big board are people BC is really serious about. And the names that I had was Luke Moga, who I don't think BC is in the running for anymore. He's about to commit. I bet it's going to be to Oregon. It was Deuce Adams, who BC had a official visit set up for June, but I don't know what happened. He ended up committing to Louisville after an unofficial visit, so he's gone. Ryan Puglisi, who is committed to Georgia. He's from Connecticut. I was hoping that Dylan Maiola, who is one of the top, I think he's the number 1 recruit in the country. He's looking at Georgia. If he commits, I wonder if Puglisi will back off of that. But even if he does, I think BC's out of that. So I have BC down to 2 quarterbacks, and that is Henry Hasselbeck and the other one, and I have it right in front of me, is Aiden Glover from Tennessee. Glover was just on campus the last couple weeks. Hasselbeck has been on campus a bunch. And I get that when you see a kid coming on over and over again, that to me, and I've talked to Henry, and I think he really likes BC, and obviously he's hearing good things about them. I think that means to me that he's going to commit. I think he's my favorite right now. Now, things can change, right? Things can always change. And in this time, that's the crystal ball I'm putting right now. And I could change that at any moment. But I'm putting Henry Hasselbeck to BC. I don't know how you guys feel about that. Leave it in the comment section, right? The second crystal ball I put in was for basketball. And that was for Elijah Strong, a 23 forward from Myers Park, North Carolina. Now, I've talked about Elijah a bunch. He's been a late riser from that area. Earl Grant is he's got something going on in that area. North Carolina, South Carolina is Earl Grant's jam. That's where he is strongest at. And Elijah, who's had some really big prep game moments in the last like couple weeks, has basically narrowed it down to BC and it sounds like Illinois State. Now, there's been some late rising programs, but he hasn't set up any official visits yet. So he had an official visit to Illinois State last week. He's going to visit BC this weekend. Now, why am I picking BC for this? If he really liked Illinois State, I think he would have committed by now. Like, for me, this is the way I kind of envision it, right? You have two schools in front of you. One of them is a lower conference school, and then there's a Power Five. If it's a lower conference school that really blows you away, you commit right on the spot. If it's a and this is just my thoughts, I could be completely wrong in how I view this, just kind of how I think of it, right? If it's a Power 5 program, at the end, it's going to go to the Power 5 every time. So I think he's going to visit BC this weekend. I think he'll pick BC by the end of this weekend. That's just my prediction right now. So I have those two crystal balls in. Now, if you like that kind of stuff, if you like to hear where I think, and I right now I'm hitting 90%, and I'd be at 100%. I have like if you go to 247, you look up AJ Black, you can find my score. I have 9 out of 10. The one that I missed on was because I was new to the system and didn't realize I could change it when what was his name? Antonio Cotman was committed to BC. I had it for BC, but never changed it off of him when he decommitted. So I'm pretty accurate. I should be at 100% at this point. But if you like that kind of stuff, when I put those in the time that it goes live, I give it to VIP subscribers first. I give it to them for the first couple days. So check that out if you like that kind of stuff. In our final segment, let's flip it, reverse it to something negative. There's a player on the transfer portal for football. I'm going to get into that and kind of just a preview of what the transfer portal could look like coming up on April 15th. This is Locked On BC. I am your host, AJ Black. Now, on Thursday, news broke that I don't even know if I want to consider it news because I think we're all kind of expecting it to happen. But wide receiver Jalen Gill finally entered the transfer portal. Now, why is this not surprising? Well, if you've been following along, and I talked about it back in early March, when the spring roster came out, Gill wasn't on there. He wasn't part of the spring roster. So you either assumed he entered the transfer portal or just gave up football. He entered the transfer portal. Now, who is Jalen Gill? Gill played the last 3 seasons for BC, and he played 2 seasons before for Ohio State, but one of them was a red shirt, and so he has one more season left. With BC, he had 80 receptions. He was also a punt and kick returner for the Eagles. And basically, he was the number 2 option for a lot of time behind Zay Flowers. And there were games where he looked pretty good. Like, he looked really good. I remember, I think it was the Clemson game in 2020 where he ripped off a huge catch at the beginning of the game. And there were other games. He had 2 games in 2020. I think it was 2020 where he had 100 yards receiving. He never really jumped out as like an elite receiver, but he was always serviceable. He was always ranked near the top in terms of like reliability and catches, things like that. I mean, when he came in from Ohio State, he came to BC with Jeff Hafley. Now, Hafley was from Ohio State. He was from Ohio State. He was a former 5-star recruit, number 40 in 247's class rankings in 2019. He was a big deal. And to get him here was good. And he was fine when he was here. He just never was like super elite. He was always good. He was always good all 3 years, but he never was elite. Now, why is he committed? Why is he transferring? Now, I know a lot of folks are going to go, and I hear this a lot. The constant go-to is that NIL. This is not an NIL thing. To me, I've been told for a lot of the guys that are leaving, it's a playing time thing, right? This this COVID year has caused a lot of players to have an extra year of eligibility and really screws up coaching staffs who are trying to develop guys and get them into the pipeline to make the two deep so they don't transfer. So like, to me, this is kind of how I read the tea leaves. You have the possibility of playing a Jalen Gill or a guy who could be similar to Jalen Gill like Jaden Williams or even like Lewis Bond. Or, you play Gill, you could risk losing those two other guys. Or you give up on the last year of Gill because, you have guys that could battle for that. And it's not a knock on him. He's got his degree. I saw, he posted on Instagram that he's graduated. Now he can go find another spot. And Gill is one of those guys, I think, that when he gets put into the right situation, will be super successful. If he can get into like a high Power 5 program, now that he's kind of developed and really matured, I could see him being a very valuable commodity for them. But we'll have to wait and see. It was just announced. He hasn't announced it. I haven't seen him post it yet. But Chris Hummer of 247, who's like one of our top guys, he put it up. So I put that up as gold. So what's going to go on this weekend? We'll have recap on the spring game on Monday. That's going to be our lead, right? We're going to have recaps of the Duke and BC baseball series, the 3-game series, and everything in between. We'll have all sorts of updates and everything you want to know. And if it happens live this weekend, I'm telling you folks, if you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel, I'm starting to use the YouTube shorts to just give you a quick 1-minute like recap of things. I just put something up on Jalen Gill. I've done things on some of the commitments that have happened, like Claudel Harris and Nick Petronio. Head over to YouTube, find Locked On BC, hit that subscribe button. I think we're up to 66 subscribers away from 1,000. This is every reason why you should do it, because you're going to get the episodes, but you're also going to get those shorts, those 1-minute like clips that kind of give you a burst on breaking news. I'm going to be doing these a lot. So make sure you head over to Locked On BC and hit subscribe right now. And follow me on Twitter at AJBlack_BC. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. I love y'all. I love everyone who's listened to this podcast. I hope you guys enjoy my podcast. It's a love of labor for here, but it's what we do. I'll see you guys all again on Monday. Let's enjoy spring football because we're getting about to hit summer. Take care, everyone.